Hi, my name is Sam. I met a girl on Tinder. Her name was Rachel. At first, we clicked. She was adventurous, always eager to hike or camp, and had a love for the outdoors that matched my own. She had a 3-year-old son, Ellie, who warmed up to me quickly. Life seemed to be moving in the right direction, and after almost a year of dating, I started saving for an engagement ring. But then things began to unravel, and the person I thought I knew started showing cracks. It started when Rachel went to court to fight for custody of Ellie. She had told me her ex was a dangerous man, abusive, controlling. She said he'd held her at gunpoint and tried to run her over with his car when she attempted to leave him. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? That's what you do when you're in love. The day of the court case was tense. Before the judge entered the room, Rachel completely broke down. She sobbed uncontrollably, saying strange things like, "You win. Take him. I don't care anymore. I'll just have another baby." Her voice was loud enough to make everyone in the courtroom stop and stare. I managed to calm her down just before the judge walked in. Her lawyer did most of the talking, and despite the outburst, she managed to secure primary care with 50-50 custody. That's when I started noticing things weren't quite adding up. During that period, I found out Rachel had some assault charges in her past. She brushed it off, explaining it was just a rough patch with her ex. But the more I learned, the more questions I had about her emotional stability. Rachel didn't seem to have many friends. In fact, I'd never met any of them, despite her often mentioning them. I figured she needed a support system beyond me and her family, so I encouraged her to reconnect with them. Then one day she told me she was having a girls' night out with some high school friends. I was thrilled. Maybe she was finally reaching out and finding a way to maintain her mental health. But that girls' night never sat right with me. The details of what she did didn't add up. Curious, I talked to her parents during a visit and discovered they had no idea about this group of friends. When I confronted Rachel, she admitted there was no girls' night out. She had met a man who she claimed was an old friend from high school. They met at a McDonald's outlet and talked until 3 a.m. over coffee. I knew she was lying. That particular McDonald's outlet was closed at midnight, and they didn't even serve coffee. When I confronted her, she asked for us to be friends. Nothing more, she wanted to continue doing family activities together, but no kissing, just friends. I felt betrayed, confused, and hurt. A few days later, I broke up with her. It should have ended there. But it didn't. 3 or 4 days later, I got a frantic call from Rachel. She was crying, begging me to take her back. She refused to tell me where she was, but made it clear that she wasn't in a stable place emotionally. She even threatened to hurt herself if I didn't get back with her. She had disappeared for days, leaving Ellie with her mom and vanishing without a trace. I called the hotel her number came from, which turned out to be the most expensive in town, and told them to call the police because she was clearly a danger to herself. Weeks later, I thought I was done with her drama. But Rachel wasn't finished. She showed up at my place, this time asking if we could get back together, even offering to bring another girl into the relationship to keep things exciting. I refused, disgusted by how far she was willing to go. That same day, she went to my parents' house, spewing lies. She told them that on a trip to Europe, my friend and I had shared a girl. For the record, that never happened. As you'd expect, my parents threw her out of their house. But before she left, she told my dad he should disown me because I was a terrible son. My dad's response: "I'm a hard man to get along with. If he told you bad things about me, they're probably true." Then he slammed the door in her face. I thought that would be the end of it. But no, a few weeks later, things took an even darker turn. One evening while I was visiting my parents for dinner, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Neither would theirs. The calls came every few seconds. I turned my phone off, and my parents took theirs off the hook. When we finally listened to the voicemails, we realized they were all from Rachel. She was claiming to be lost in the woods behind my parents' house. She said her phone was dying and she didn't know where she was. I immediately called the police. They found her barefoot stumbling through the forest, some 300 meters from my parents' place, near a highway. She was disoriented, crying, and shivering. No shoes. Her feet were frostbitten and she had hypothermia. Even then, it wasn't over. Months went by without a word from her, and I foolishly let my guard down. I had started dating someone new, a woman who had no idea about the nightmare I'd been through. Then the calls started up again. This time, Rachel claimed she was pregnant. I asked for proof, but she conveniently had a miscarriage. One cold morning after a few days of heavy snow, I came home to find footprints all over my yard. An empty bottle of rum was lying in the snow near my front door. On the floor was a book, and inside was a 15-page handwritten will. The letter was full of apologies and ramblings about how it was her fault that Ailey wouldn't have a mother anymore. I didn't even finish reading it. I immediately called the police. As I was on the phone with them, my neighbor came out. He told me that earlier that morning, he had heard someone crying under my deck. When he went to check, he found Rachel. She was freezing, her skin blue from the cold, and she had been under my deck for hours. He called an ambulance, and they took her away. If it weren't for my neighbor, I would have never thought to look under the deck. If she had died there, her body would have been frozen until spring. Can you imagine explaining to the police why your ex's body was found under your deck months later? I found her car a few blocks away and called her father to pick it up. That's when her parents told me the truth. It wasn't her ex who had held a shotgun to her head or tried to run her over. It was the other way around. She was the one who had terrorized him. Her parents admitted that they had hoped I could help her get better. They knew she was unstable, manipulative, and dangerous. And that's how I realized I had narrowly escaped a complete nightmare. I hope I never cross lines with her or see her again.